Have you ever seen a photo that makes you feel inexplicably strange? Like a feeling of dread, nostalgia, or loneliness? Has that feeling ever stuck with you for days, weeks, maybe even years, and give you the same strange feeling every time you revisit the photo? Today, I want to talk about what that photo is and why it makes us feel so strange. This is something I have a personal experience with, so I decided to take a step back from the true crime and horror just to talk about it. So let's take a deep dive into the uneasy pool that is known as liminal spaces. Dread, sadness, loneliness, a feeling like you've been there before, unease. These are the feelings commonly associated with liminal spaces. The human mind can play tricks on us, especially when what we're looking at is designed to mess with us as well. I'm sure at some point you've seen these photos, or one similar to them, especially in the last few years of growing popularity in liminal spaces. But what is the psychology behind how these photos make us feel? First, we must dissect what a liminal space is. Liminal comes from the Latin word limen, meaning threshold. A common explanation of a liminal space is that it's a snapshot of a location in transition between one state and another. But there's much more to it than that. There are themes and subgenres of liminal spaces, elements that, when present, make the photo even more unnerving. Most photos don't have any nature in them to make them feel even more cold and robotic. Lighting is often bright and colorful to strangely contrast the lack of life. In some situations, the photos aren't even real, manufactured to invoke the feeling of dread we get. To me, a liminal space is indeed a transition between life and death. Some people find comfort here, a quiet place where they can just think. But for people like me, it's an interesting glimpse of something lonely and terrifying. A place I don't recall finding and now I can't escape. It's a fear that spawned the creepypasta-esque stories of the backrooms, which I'll talk about briefly. When asked to post disquieting images that just feel off on 4chan, one user uploaded this image on May 12, 2019. There was no location posted, no explanation, just an unnerving photo of yellow wallpaper and fluorescent lighting. The internet took the wheel from here and began making up all kinds of stories about how this is where you go when you suddenly no-clip out of reality, a gaming term which means falling through the floor and out into space. A place called the Backrooms where you wander endlessly for all eternity, unless, of course, the thing stalking you finds you first. This is where the Backrooms lore loses me. The idea of being stuck in a liminal space was a horrifying thought to me, but what makes it scary is the utter loneliness, and when you add monsters, it just becomes another SCP catalog. For this reason, I won't dwell on the Backrooms, but I wanted to explain why there was a sudden surge of popularity on the internet with liminal spaces involved. That being said, maybe one day I'll play the game. We're surrounded by liminal spaces. We just have to know where to look. Common categories of liminal spaces include abandoned malls, indoor swimming pools, abandoned airports, empty schools, empty hotels, hallways, unfurnished rooms, hospitals, and playgrounds. The element that sticks with all of them is emptiness. Why is this location that's usually bustling with people empty? Where has everyone gone? I experienced my first liminal space when I was a kid, but until now didn't know what to call it. Video games are full of liminal spaces. Mario 64 is famous for them because when you remove the characters and foreground action, what you're left with is a skybox that goes on forever, as something you're not meant to look at for too long. In the level Wet Dry World, there's a background that has stuck with me since childhood. An adobe village at dawn with water for a sky. Quietly sitting in the background being unimportant to anyone but those who see it. Coupled with the music that plays in this level, it left me with a feeling of loneliness that I've never been able to shake whenever I revisit it. Liminal spaces can have a deep impact on some people. Many find them nostalgic, even if they've never been to that particular place. This is because many categories of liminal spaces include places you've seen as a kid. Play places, a house from the 90s, a hotel hallway. For this reason, these photos can tap into a sense of sadness for a time long past, bringing you to a place where you once had meaningful experiences, but now it's abandoned and unfamiliar. This sense of uncertainty, loneliness, and unease has the ability to cause a kind of spiraling panic or depression in some. It's important that if you find yourself in this situation, you stay mindful of your surroundings. This video was different, a lot more opinion and personal experiences, but it's something I really wanted to talk about. And I felt it fit within the realm of unsettling that it still deserved a place on this channel. Just wanted to give you something to think about and maybe look into yourself. If you ever find yourself in a liminal space, take a picture of it. The photo just might haunt you. Thanks for watching. For true crime and horror, which is what I usually talk about, please consider subscribing. Game with me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, and as always, be well.